What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to Just Ballin', and today we are going to be pretty much putting the 2023 NBA draft class into a tier list. So I did do this version, I think it was last week, for the 2024 draft class, and you guys really enjoyed that. And this class, I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting just because we have a larger sample size. We have a whole nother year on this class than we do for 2024. So I think we can get a little bit more definitive with these tiers, and they're not going to be as vague as they were in the 2024 tier list. So we have MVP. I think you can win an MVP in your career, at least one. All-NBA, I think you can make at least one All-NBA appearance, which means I think your ceiling can be a top 15 player in the NBA. We have All-Star, we have starter/role player, we have rotational guy, and doesn't look good. And this draft class, I think, has a lot of ups and it has a lot of downs, but it is a very interesting draft class on both ends of the spectrum. Offensively, defensively, just rotational guys, everything at the top and the bottom. I really like this draft class so far. Maybe not, it's not the best draft class by any means, but I think it's got a lot of cool layers to it that we're going to dive into here. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you agree with, disagree with. I kind of like doing these a little bit longer so I can give you my thought process and my analysis on these players so far and what I think they could be. And if you guys are listening on audio or so Apple Podcasts or Spotify, links to that are on the YouTube description, and I appreciate that a ton. All these episodes are on audio platforms. So we get started off. I'm going to go back and forth between just kind of basketball reference to pull up these stats. So first guy we have Bilal Coulibaly. Ooh, man, Bilal is an interesting place to start because he was drafted very high. I don't think Basketball Reference will have his international stats, but he didn't put up numbers, to say the least, in France, playing for Metropolitans 92, same team as Wemby, got a lot of hype towards the draft, and he's still incredibly young. He's 20 years old. He's going to be 20 years old throughout this season. You could say he's in the worst environment in the NBA. You would say over the last 5 years, Washington is pretty bad, and what they are currently, I think Charlotte's been pretty bad. They've gone through a bunch of regime changes since over the last 5 years. You could say there's a lot of bad, dysfunctional franchise. I wouldn't even say Washington's dysfunctional because they have a plan right now, but he hasn't been accustomed to winning so far. And he's playing with Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole, Valanciunas, Brogdon, maybe not the greatest core veterans that are really just going to come and go. And the guys they can't trade, there's a reason why they can't trade. And maybe they can't move Kuzma, we'll see, or Jordan Poole because of the contract. But Bilal, I think, has shown a lot of flashes on both ends of the floor. He got off to a great start in year number 2. There was a big Bilal hype train. We could see in the month of October, he averaged 18, 6, and 3 on 72% true shooting across his first 4 games of the year. And then it dipped down a little bit, and you can see the numbers have gone down and down since. It is not pretty in the months of basically middle of November on December, January. It's not great. And it doesn't help that his team isn't great. The defense is bad around him, but he has shown flashes. He's 20 years old. We have to get that into our minds that he has, I think, immense potential for a 20-year-old. I think at least one time in his career, Bilal Coulibaly can make the All-Star game. That may be high. You may think it's a tier below at starter or role player. I don't think he's ever going to be an All-NBA guy in his career, but I do think that there's a ceiling where Bilal can average close to 20 points. He's averaging 12 points per game as a 20-year-old. He's going to be 21 next year. Hopefully they figure out maybe a more definitive point guard leadership option on this team going forward, because I think that's what he needs. I think he needs a counterpart on the perimeter, or at least in the half court defensively. I think him and Sarr are legitimate something defensively as a duo. Man, they could be such a fun Cooper Flagg team, because Cooper Flagg and Sarr defensively behind Coulibaly would be unreal for Bilal's off-ball and on-ball defensive development, in my opinion. The shot, I think, could be a concern. It has gone down this year with the volume. I think that's something to keep an eye on. And I think Bilal still has potential to be an all-star. You may think I'm still high on him, but I knew we were going to have some growing pains. And I think he was honestly way more exciting of a prospect than what we saw Tidjane Salaün to be. And Salaün, I mean, you guys maybe saw the first G League game for him. He took 10 threes or 8 threes, and it's just, he may be 2 years away from being 2 years away. I didn't love the pick at the time. I don't know why I'm talking about Tidjane Salaün in this video. Taylor Hendricks. Oh, man. Hendricks, I loved his second half last year. They finally played him. They have, obviously, a bunch of guys there in the front court last year. And you could see in March, he was just playing a little bit more. The three-point shot was falling towards the final 19 games of the year. 36% from 3 in March, 54% from 3 in April in 7 games. And this is something for Hendricks, too. 21 years old. We saw the floor spacing ability at UCF, and he gets the gruesome knee injury or fibula injury in his 3rd game of the year. So his year 2 is wiped out completely, and it may take some time for him to develop into year number 3. I thought this could hurt his role in the NBA, but I think it's still I think he's going to be fine enough one day where he could be a starter and role player. I really hope this injury doesn't set him back, but Oh man, I may put him as rotational guy for now. I may put him at rotational guy just because I don't know if he's going to be a top 5 team, like, player on a team. And the flashes we've seen, like, this is a gruesome injury, and I'm a little scared on how it's going to be for his development. Utah's going to add even more rookies. Is he going to be bumped down at the end of the rotation? Because Collier's shown a lot this year. Sensabaugh has shown something. They probably want to play Cody Williams a ton more. Keontae George is going to get his reps, and they could have multiple first-round picks in this upcoming draft as well. I know they just traded the 3-for-1 with Phoenix, so maybe not as much. Maybe he gets time to bounce back next year, but I think I'm going to play it safe with the injury and throw him into rotational guy. But I think he could still be a good floor spacing power forward one day. Derek Lively. I think Derek Lively can make an all-star. I do. I think I would be fine if you wanted to say, like, what's his ceiling in this league, especially without Luka Doncic. He just got an injury, too, where he's out for 2 to 3 months with the ankle. I think it was the ankle injury. But he's somebody that was an incredible rookie. He finished 6th in Rookie of the Year voting. He finished, I think, on all, I forget, it was probably first team, but just a really good rim protector of somebody of his age. There was always talks like pre-draft, could he space the floor? That never happened, but it helps a ton that he plays with Luka, and he's a great rim runner. He's a good off-ball defender, and he's still 20 years old as well. He's still incredible young. It sucks he's going to miss a decent amount of time, but if I'm going to put Bilal in the all-star tier, I think Bilal does have a higher ceiling than Lively. It's just the way that he can be more versatile as an offensive piece. Like, Lively is never really going to be more than somebody that's going to be a close to the rim offensive guy. Yes, he can be a monster on the boards. He can be a monster in terms of catching alley-oops and rolling to the rim, but he's never going to create his own shot. He's probably not going to have a three-point shot like Bilal does, but I do think he at one point can make one all-star appearance in his career, because you also got to factor in, he's putting up really good numbers in 24 minutes a night. We look at his per 36, like, we're at 14 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, like, obviously, that may not be exactly what he would average in 36 minutes, but if we ever see him play 32, 33 minutes a day, there's a chance he could be kind of like a Jared Allen type numbers guy, and that could definitely make an all-star appearance for sure. Grady Dick. I don't know if Grady Dick's ever going to make an all-star game. I think he could be a very good role player, and I think, like I've mentioned it tons this year, he could be a really good player on a playoff team as like your 4th, 5th scoring option, and is just like this microwave scorer for you. I really like Grady's advancements this year with his pull-up shot, because he's somebody that I think now is more aggressive this year. It's been inefficient at times, but last year was a lot of standing in the corner when OG and Siakam were there. He comes alive a little bit in the second half, but this year he got off to a really good start. He's kind of like Bilal, that his shooting numbers have dropped a little bit since his hot start. Like, he had a really good start in October, beginning in November, and then he shoots 39 from the field, 41-40 over the next 3 months. The 3-point shot is still good, and like, I'm taking Grady Dick is a positive offensive player in this league. I just don't know if he's going to be anything more than this, because this was like his time to showcase us with high volume. Like, he's 21, but like, you have Quickly, you have RJ, you have Barnes. They may have a top pick. Like, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Grady Dick to get up. I mean, can I pull up how many shots he was taking to start off the year? Like, Grady Dick was getting his shots up. Basically till mid-December, we can look 15 shots a night. Like, there was times where he's getting 20 shots a night, and he can be very effective because of the 3-point shot. I mean, maybe he ends up getting an all-star appearance in his career, but I don't know. Like, I don't love Grady Dick's defense. I think that's a tough debate between Bilal and Dick, but I do think Bilal has a little bit higher upside than Grady Dick, and I think that's where we're going to draw the line. I think Keontae George, good rotational player as well. I was a little scared about Keontae George as a prospect, especially hearing that he was going to play point guard. Now, I don't love Keontae George as your primary ball handler, and I think it's been kind of nice for him to have Isaiah Collier to his side. That's taken a little bit of the load off him offensively, at least in creating, and then Colin Sexton as well. Like, we'll see where this Jazz team is headed towards, because we got 3 first-round picks to talk about for this team, and I think Keontae George is the most exciting out of the 3, and he was picked, 9 picks after Hendricks? Hendricks was 9, so 7 picks after Hendricks, and he's somebody that's kind of like the opposite of Bilal and Dick. Like, just pulling up his splits, he started off the year 39% true shooting, and it's been so much better. Like, Keontae George has been a lot more efficient, looks a little bit more calm out there, and I think he has real potential to be a efficient 3-point shooting combo guard in this league. I don't know about the 2-point percentage over time. Like, we look at it now, 45% last year, 45% this year, kind of struggles at the rim at times, but I think could be a very good starter in this league. And this is a good tier to be in. It really is. Like, we're not going to have many guys in these top tiers, so that's a good tier to be in. Jalen Hood-Schifino, it does not look good. What's the total games for Hood-Schifino in his career? He's played 2 games this year, 21 games last year, at least appeared in. And he's got a hamstring injury. Nice. I would be shocked if the Lakers can't include him in a trade at the deadline, because that's what, $4 million, $3.8 million they can include in a trade. They're not paying him $4 million next year or $6.2 next year either, or the year after that. He is damn, like that stinks. Like he's going to make 7 million. I mean, you add in like LA taxes, like it's probably going to take him like three-ish, like agent fees, like $3 million in the first 2 years of his career, which is still good money. But man, I hope he can find a spot in this league, because I thought he was a first-round talent out of Indiana. I don't know if he got like the time to shine. Like I wonder like how different his career would be if he got drafted to the Utah Jazz or the Washington Wizards, or a team that had multiple first-round picks, like the Hornets later in the draft. Like how different could his career have been? Brandon Podziemski, I would say he's looking like a rotational guy right now. After last year, I would have said, I don't know if I think Pods would ever have been an all-star, but definitely the Grady Dick, Keontae George tier. But I think he's more in the Taylor Hendricks tier. For somebody that has not found a shot this year, 29% from three this year, 40% from the field. I feel like he's been a little bit better, at least going into the new year, where we haven't obviously seen Pods in a little bit, but we haven't seen him in January whatsoever. But the shot was better in December. Okay, yeah, it was. 44% from the field, 42% from three after the abysmal start. So it sucks that the injury, the abdominal injury, is going to hold him out for a little bit. I actually don't know. Like, yeah, it says he's out for Wednesday the 22nd, tonight's game, but I'm not sure if there's a timetable for him to return. Will he be traded? I think that could affect where we view him long-term as well. But I think he's shown enough where he's going to be at least a rotational guy for years to come. I would say starter role player. Like you're a starter, or you're like a 6th, 7th man, but you are going to get paid like good money. Like Lou Dort wasn't always a starter, but he was always like that good role player in this league. Let me just like fact check myself. But like Lou Dort, I mean, he actually started a ton in his career. So maybe that's a bad example. I was like, wait, Matt, has he come off the bench a lot? No. But like, it could be like a Caruso type guy, somebody that's come off the bench, but could make a lot of money as a 6th or 7th man. Next up, we have Noah Clowney. I think he's a real rotational guy. Noah Clowney, man, I hope this is going to be a little bit more opportunity for him as a floor spacer. Like 40% from three against the Knicks, 42% against the Lakers, 57% from three against the Blazers. His three-point shot has come alive, which I didn't really think we were going to see much of watching him in Alabama. Like 28% from three on 120 attempts. At least the volume was there at Alabama. Last year was kind of a disaster for Clowney, but yeah, he has been way better than the guy we'll get to in a little bit from the Nets. And he shot 40% from three in December. Like he shot 41% from three in November, 31% from three in January. It's encouraging though. And I think that adds a wrinkle to his game, which makes him at least somewhat of a rotational guy if Noah Clowney could be a three-point shooter. Oh man, Chris Murray does not look good. It does not look good. And it's a shame too, or it's like, I don't know. It's not encouraging that he has not shown a ton in Portland, where this 2023 draft class has not been where Portland would want it to be. But this is somebody that was older as a prospect. They were trading Damian Lillard, so there were some other guys on the board I would have liked them to take. Maybe Julian Strawther could have been an option as well. But they take Chris Murray at 23. This was from the Josh Hart trade, so this is your main asset, trading away Josh Hart, who, I mean, it's not, that trade is not looking for good for them in retrospect. And his numbers have gone down across the board, minutes per game less. Maybe he does better with a different coach next year if they move on from Chauncey Billups. But they're going to add another first-round pick in this draft. They're going to want to play Sharp and Scoot, Denny, Kamara, Klingon, a couple other guys, more minutes going forward. I just don't know. I don't see the path for Chris Murray to become a real good player in Portland. Maybe he needs to change the scenery, but I would say right now it doesn't look good. Olivier Maxence Prosper probably doesn't look good either. He's somebody that really hasn't played a ton for the Dallas Mavericks, but this year he's been able to play a little bit more because all the injuries they have, and now with Lively out with a decent amount of time. I know Gafford came up in trade rumors. That's probably not going to happen anymore, and he's somebody has struggled to crack the rotation, but he's playing double-digit minutes, and he hasn't really taken advantage. I mean, you do see the flashes of what he could be as a as like an off-ball defender, and I think kind of like a high-energy guy in a way, but adding like Marshall and Grimes and Hardy taking a step, like tough for OMP to crack the rotation, and like he was a fun player at Marquette. Was he much of a three-point shooter at Marquette? I forgot he spent time in Clemson. Like he shot 33% from three on 115 attempts his junior year at Marquette, but I would say for OMP, it's not looking good on being like a true rotational player in this league. I think Marcus Sasser is a good rotational player in this league. I mean, I think the volume has dropped off a little bit this year, but I do think there's something there as like a 3-and-D guy. I mean, the defense is as good as it could be for somebody that is 6'2", and doesn't maybe look super tall out there. But honestly, he's Cade's backup. He doesn't play a ton because of Cade playing a ton of minutes and plays a little bit more now that Ivy's hurt. But I like his shot, man. And I think Sasser is going to be a rotational guy in this league for years to come. I mean, Jarace Walker, oh man, like I think the potential is still a good starter. I do, but is it going to happen in Indiana? Like they extended Obi. They have Siakam. We were going to be told that he was going to play a lot of small forward this year, and Neesmith has to miss some time. But when he comes back, like, they have Mathurin. Is there going to be time for Walker to play consistent minutes? Like, it's just been too inconsistent with his playing time. And I think the potential is there for him to be, honestly, like a good 3-and-D big body. And the defense can come and go at times, and I'm sure Pacers fans can attest to that. I just wish we saw consistent playing time from Walker, because it was inconsistent all the time in his rookie year. This year, like, he's played a decent amount, and I mean, there might be times where the defense hasn't looked good, and like I said, Pacers fans you can let me know in the comments if it's taken a step back this year in your eyes. I still think, though, he's a starter/role player in this league. I just think this has not been the best place for him so far. And it's also like, I don't know, like, the Pacers had a top 10 pick in the 23 draft, and they made it to the conference finals in 2024, and that just maybe was never going to be the best spot for Walker to grow. I think Ben Shepherd's a rotational guy. I think we saw him hit big shots in big moments last year in the playoffs. A little bit older coming out of Belmont, but 38% from three this year. At times in the playoffs last year, he ended up shooting, 45% from three across 7 games against the Knicks. 50% from 3 on 18 attempts against the Bucks in round 1. Like, those are rotational numbers if you're already showing up on the big stage. The defense obviously could be a factor in Shepherd growing over time, but I think he's for sure a rotational piece in this league. Kobe Buffkin does not look good. Oh, man. And this one pains me to say, because I was a big Kobe Buffkin fan out of Michigan. I thought this was a steal for where he went, but I will say on record, I hated this fit, because they had Murray, they had Trae Young. I thought it was a bad spot for him to grow, and he had signs as a rookie, but was hurt. And then this year, very inefficient, and also has been hurt again with the shoulder issue. The defense, I think, also has been inconsistent, and we're in year 2. If you don't have a good year 3, and like we're getting to the end of that rookie contract, and teams have to decide, are they going to pick up that 4th year, then we're looking like, all right, maybe it's not working out in your first spot. I mean, like, everybody might doesn't look good. Like, I'm not saying they're the B word or they're going to be out of the league in a year. No, I'm just saying it doesn't look good for finding like maybe long-term success on their current team. Just this, like, the version we're seeing of these guys, it doesn't maybe look good on them being like a top 9 guy on a playoff team. I think Ben Shepherd, Sasser, Clowney, Pods, or Hendricks right now or one day can be the 9th guy on a playoff team. Like, confidently, I could say that. Hood Schifino, Chris Murray, OMP, and Buffkin, the guys I'm talking about now, I think it's tough for them, like what we've seen so far, to be convinced that they're going to be anything better than like a 10th to 12th guy or 13th guy or up and down from the G League in their future, just for right now. And it doesn't help that like maybe their scenery, like it's just not working out with their current teams. Next up, Nick Smith Jr. Oh man, do I want to put him in? Doesn't look good. Another guy, him and Buffkin, I was super high on going into this draft. And honestly, the fact that Nick Smith Jr., like, I like his 3-point shot, but like he's also smaller as a guard. He's 6'2". His at the rim field goal percentage has not been great. His 2-point percentage has been abysmal, but like he's so much better from downtown than he is that I think like he can have some value as a rotational guy in this league. I do. I'm high on Nick Smith's shot. I was at Arkansas. It's just 39% from the field and 40% from 3. How do you do that? How do you do that? And how are you shooting 50% from the free throw line as well? I mean, how many free throw attempts is this on? 2. Yeah, done. Never mind. Okay. I was going to say it's definitely like 2 or 4 attempts. But like, yeah, you're going to struggle getting to the line. Not going to be able to draw contact. You're 6'2". I don't know. Like, he's shot very well over his last 2 games against the Mavericks and the Bulls. And this is like the time, and this is, I think, a chance in Charlotte where he can grow. Like, they're going to be bad throughout the rest of the year. There's playing time for Nick Smith to be made. Just be a good 3-point shooter, and I think you can be a rotational piece. And also going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's 20 years old as well. Next up, we have Bryce Sensabaugh for the Utah Jazz. And Bryce Sensabaugh has been great. Like, we are seeing a breakout as a good rotational piece in Bryce Sensabaugh over these last few weeks. In the month of January, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 62% true shooting. Are you kidding me? He had those really good games back in his home state of Florida against the Heat and the Magic. And this is honestly probably the second best pick for the Jazz. It's probably looking like George is 1, Sensabaugh 2, Hendricks 3. There's a chance Sensabaugh is 1 because he had the injury concerns coming out of Ohio State. He had an up and down rookie year, had good moments and bad moments in the G League where he spent a decent amount of time. But man, he has been great this year. He has an ankle injury. Hopefully it doesn't affect his play towards the end of the year, but I'm throwing him in the starter role player. He's joining Jarris Walker, Keontae George, and Grady Dick. Next up, we have Julian Strawther. I think is also going to be in that tier. I thought Strawther was going to have a better year than Christian Braun. Hands up, I was wrong about that one. I was overreacting about Strawther's development this year, but he's had his good games. Like, he played very well against Philadelphia last night when like Jamal Murray didn't have a great game. He's been shooting well from three this year, 38%. And I think it's going to help a ton for his development playing with Nikola Jokic. I really liked watching him at Gonzaga, where he spent multiple years there. He spent 3 years there and developed every single year and was a big part of that 2023 team for Gonzaga. And he, I think, is in a very good situation in Denver. Like, I'm sure if you throw in OMP or Chris Murray or maybe Buffkin or some of the rotational guys in Denver, they could be really good. But Strother, I think, has been a very good player so far, and I think could be a good rotational player slash or a good starter slash role player at his peak one day. I would say Kobe Brown, not looking good. I didn't love this pick when it happened. I thought there was a lot of better guys on the board for the Clippers, and especially what their needs are. He actually showed some flashes in the summer league, but he's 25. Like, he's 25 years old, and he's shown minimum development as a rotational guy in this league. 4-year guy coming out of Missouri. Had really good numbers his senior year. Like, don't get me wrong. I just didn't love his fit on the Clippers, and I thought a first-round pick was a little high to invest in. So I'm going to throw him in that doesn't look good. Next guy we're going to talk about, Leonard Miller, is a really tough guy because I really liked where he went in this draft. 33rd, I thought this was incredible value for Minnesota at the time, but he was always going to be a project player coming out of the G League Ignite, and he has rarely played in his career, just 20 career games. So I think by default, I'm just going to throw him in that doesn't look good. Maybe that just means his current team. I think he could be a rotational guy, and maybe that's putting too much stock into what I've seen like in the G League and like the very, very small stints we saw in his NBA career so far. But I was just very high on Leonard Miller. I'm just going to try to be consistent with this. But I would say out of all these guys, it doesn't look good. I have the, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to throw him in rotational guy. I believe in him to do that. Next up, we have Colby Jones, who I think has benefited playing a little bit for the Kings at times this year, but it hasn't been a ton. Second round pick, another guy I loved him, Leonard Miller and Maxwell Lewis in this draft in the second round. I still think Colby Jones could be something, but for what we've seen, I'm going to throw him in. Doesn't look good right now, but I think could be a rotational guy. Wemby, obviously, there's a reason why the MVP tier. He, like, spoiler alert, he's going to be the only person there. As I said, spoiler alert, really weirdly there. Sorry about that. But yeah, Wemby, 24, 11, 4, 47, 35, 84 splits on the year. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's taking how many threes a night? 9 threes a night, shooting 35% from three. He averaged 3.5 blocks per game last year, led the NBA. 4 blocks a game. 4. That is insane. He's averaging 5.1 stocks a night. Oh my God. He's going to be on all NBA first team at this current rate. Like, they may have no choice to put Wemby, whose team may not even make the playoffs, on all NBA first team. If anything, he's all NBA second team. At 21, he's already a top 10 player in the NBA. I would be surprised if Wemby doesn't get at least one MVP in his career. Another player that I think has shown flashes is Julian Phillips of the Chicago Bulls. I really like his athleticism. And they took a second round pick, like a second round flyer on him out of Tennessee. And maybe we're going to see more Julian Phillips in like the second half of the year when Vucevic and hopefully some of these veterans are off the team, Levine. I think he could be a real rotational guy. I think he's more like in the Leonard Miller boat of the rotational guy that I still believe in. I would say Amen Thompson, all NBA. Is that aggressive? I know he's the talk of the town this year. I liked Amen Thompson a lot. I think I like the Soar pre-draft like slightly better than Amen, which is not looking like a good take right now. But I don't think the worst take in the world. But Amen Thompson, man, what he is defensively and what he's looked offensively as well since we've been seeing him play more minutes a night, because he's been better than Fred VanVleet, like flat out this year. And he's a decade younger than Fred VanVleet. In the month of January, in 7 games, 17, 11, and 3.5 assists. Still 60% true shooting, even with him not being a good free throw shooter this year, and also not being a good 3-point shooter. If he develops a 3-point shot, he can actually be, I think, an MVP candidate one day. That's how good he is. But I think at his peak, you're looking at a top 5, top 7 defender in the sport. You're looking at the most athletic player to watch. Hopefully a slam dunk contest, maybe title in his career. But you're looking at somebody that can legitimately average 20, 10, and 5 with all defensive first team caliber defense. That is an all NBA talent for sure. Next up, Andre Jackson. I think rotational guy. Another guy that I haven't really loved the development of him in Milwaukee, and that's kind of just been Milwaukee's MO for development over the last few years. But I think there is a 3-and-D rotational guy piece to him. What I evaluated at UConn when I was watching him and what I've seen at the NBA level, it's just like Milwaukee's like, they threw him into a win-now environment, and I thought he was going to help a little bit more, but his minutes have been very inconsistent with Doc Rivers and even some of the other coaches before Doc. Ausar Thompson, I'm going to throw him in the starter role player right now. He probably, like, I'm trying to look at this tier of Dick, George, Walker, Sensabaugh, Strother, and Ausar. I should say. I always kind of butcher his name. Who has like the highest all-star potential, and it might be Ausar. Like what he is as a defender. And he had like the health scare last year, so I'm not going to put too much like stock into like what his numbers are looking like this year, but the athleticism still looks like it's there. The defense is definitely there. It's just the offensive shot. And I think Amen definitely has better like downhill ability, a little bit better like ball control in transition. And that's why Amen has been better so far. But I think Ausar, like at the minimum, is going to be a good starter role player in this league. Brandon Miller, I'll throw in the All-NBA as well. I'm going to throw him in there with Amen Thompson. Maybe not the best year too, and he's had multiple injuries and he's currently hurt, I believe, right now. Yeah, with the wrist injury. His numbers have taken a little bit of a hit with his efficiency. I mean, his true shooting last year, we could pull it up, was 55%. It's down to 54% this year. His free throw rate is around the same, but you're asking him to do so much at times. Like, there's some games where LaMelo's taking like 30 shots, and he's had, let's see, he's had a game this year, he's had to take 30 shots against the Hawks and 26 and 20, a bunch of 25s. Like, you're looking at this Hornets team that's had their fair share of injuries, and they're a limited offensive talent, and Miller's asked to do so much. He's asked to, like, basically be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or no, that's maybe Luka Doncic, like the level of creation and like workload, or even Devin Booker at times, like earlier in his career. In year number 2, he's 22 years old. I still think he can be a good 3-level scorer, 6'9", good ball handling ability, good mid-range jumper. I think he's gonna be fine, hopefully for a more competitive team next year in Charlotte. Dariq Whitehead, not looking good. He barely played in his rookie year because of injuries. Was injured at Duke. I thought was going to be one of the safer shooters in this draft if he could stay healthy. Now he's still just 20, and he's going to be on a rebuilding team throughout the rest of his rookie contract. So this is going to be a good chance for Dariq Whitehead to still have a good career in this league. But he was terrible in the summer league. And we haven't really seen much from him this year. He's been having very inconsistent playing time on a team that is playing guys that my friends are texting me like, who are these guys that I'm hearing playing for the Brooklyn Nets? And that's going to be an issue. Maybe he's just not impressing Jordi Fernandez in practice, and that's something that we don't know. But I would say it's not looking good. I mean, like Hunter Tyson, it's tough to evaluate because he wasn't really going to be much in his career. And he's in a good spot in Denver to grow. I'll just throw him in the not looking good, though. I don't know if he's going to be much of a rotational guy. And that means like a top 9 guy. I think Phillips could be that, but that's probably like his fullest potential. Same with Leonard Miller going forward as well. I think Jordan Walsh has shown rotational guy stuff. Helps that he's in Boston, and I think he's been able to get very good looks because the defense are focused on some very good players over there. I mean, the efficiency is really bad, though, so maybe not. Maybe not. You know what? I didn't realize it was that bad. I'm going to throw him and doesn't look good. But I don't know. Every time I'm tuning into a Celtics game, it looks like he's involved at some point. Maybe it's been blowouts. He hasn't played a lot lately because the blowouts haven't been as common as the Celtics kind of have their own issues. I would say Jordan Hawkins, starter role player, got off to a really good start this year, but I think like Bilal, like Brandon Miller, was asked to do so much because everybody was hurt. He was like a number 2 scoring option, number 1 scoring option in the second week of the season. So his efficiency took a hit, but I think he's going to be a really good role player in this league. And I think New Orleans did well with the 14th overall pick here. Maxwell Lewis has already been traded to the Brooklyn Nets, where I think maybe we can see something out of Lewis there, but then he ended up getting hurt, and I believe he's out for the year. Or no, he's going to be updated again in 4 weeks with the leg injury, sadly. And I really liked his film at Pepperdine. And maybe that was just him not playing the best competition in the world over there, Pepperdine. I mean, I believe they're in the WCC, like, still a good conference, but he was so good at getting to the rim and finishing at the rim. But I would say it doesn't look good right now. Amari Bailey probably doesn't look good. Like, for a team like Charlotte with all their injuries and lack of talent over the last 2 years, like not having a chance to grow, I would say is, I don't know. Like, it didn't work out in his rookie year, and we'll see if he's going to even find a spot in this league going forward. I'm surprised Tristan Vukcevic hasn't really, like, I don't know, been that involved this year for a bad Wizards team, because I thought what he showed in the second half last year, I would have thrown him in rotational guy, but I guess it's not looking good for him. But they did draft Alex Sarr and sign Valanciunas, so maybe that was going to affect his minutes. Next up, we have Ryan Rupert of the Portland Trailblazers. Another player I did like in this draft, taking a flyer on in the second round. Like Murray, hasn't really shown a lot, so this draft class has definitely been underwhelming for the Blazers, and we'll get to the big name in a little bit. But I would say for Rupert, probably not looking good. I think Cam Whitmore is looking like at least a starter and role player. He looked too good as a rookie, and he has shown still flashes this year with the playing time being inconsistent. He got demoted to the G League, but he's been very good, I believe, in the month of January and in like the year 2025. I would like for him to work on other aspects of this game, but he's always going to be score first, shoot first. But yeah, he's got a 55% true shooting in January, 58 in December, and that's just across 16 games. But he got to a bad start this year. But I would say Cam Whitmore is going to be a good starter in this league. I don't know if he's going to be on a different team. Next up, we do have, or I'll talk about GG Jackson real quick. I don't know. I still think from what we saw from GG last year, I'm going to throw him in the starter role player because he was, 19 last year, and he ended up on an all-rookie team. He looked great for a Grizzlies team that was so banged up. Like, 14 points. What was that, like, 4th highest among rookies or 5th? And he was a good three-point shooter. I don't expect those numbers to look good this year. Excuse me, he also recently came back as well the other night against Minnesota, which is nice to see him play. And we'll see, like, how his playing time looks coming off an injury and with all this depth with Memphis has. So, like, he's not going to play nearly close to the 25 minutes a night like he did in 2024. Unless there's a lot of injuries, I can't see that going above 20 minutes per game. So, I think, though, he's, 20 years old, aggressive at the rim, good athlete. I think he could be a starter role player in this league. Next up, Sidy Cissoko. We haven't really been able to see a lot with him on the Spurs. And he was like, Wemby's like French mate coming over. I'm just going to put it, like, honestly, if it's guys we haven't seen a lot of, like, doesn't look good. I also liked Leonard Miller a ton coming out of pre-draft. So maybe that's not consistent. You can let me know in the comments. Jett Howard, not looking good. Howard has shown flashes, but for somebody that was drafted ahead of Grady Dick, was a lottery pick. And with all the injuries that Orlando has had this year, that we're seeing, like, queen play for them in the rotation. And I don't know. I feel like Jett Howard hasn't been great this year. And I think, like, Tristan Da Silva has been better. Anthony Black has been better. And he's somebody that was supposed to be, like, a good three-point shooter. 21% from 3 in December, 29% in January. Like, got off to, like, he doesn't play, like, consistent enough to start off the year to where, like, those are high-quality shots or big-time moment shots. And I just don't love Jett's defense. Like I said, there's been some flashes this year, but I would say it's not looking good for him, at least on this Orlando Magic team. Next up, we do have, like, I could just honestly throw Emoni Bates. I don't know. Like, Bates, it's going to be tough for him to play on this Cavs team. Like, this is the best team in the league, and he honestly showed a little bit, at least throughout the summer league in the past. But I'll say, like, I'm just going to be consistent with doesn't look good. Jalen Wilson, I think rotational guy for sure. I don't know about good starter. That might be a little bit aggressive because he's playing on a team where, I mean, he's, like, sometimes the number 3 scoring option some nights. But I think he's shown flashes last year and this year for the Nets. So I'm going to throw the former Jayhawk there. Next up, like, where is he? Did I miss him? Is he not in this tier list? All right. That is crazy. This tier list that I used. Unless I'm completely missing him, but I do not see Scoot Henderson. All right. I'll make sure to, like, double check this at the end. But Toumani Camara, starter role player for sure. Incredible defender this year. And I'm just excited to hopefully see, like, a lineup next year of Scoot at the 1, Sharp at the 2, Camara, what he could be as a 3-and-D piece, as a good help player with Clingan. That defense could be something. And Denny Avdia and Clingan in the front court under a new head coach gets me excited about 2026 Blazers basketball. And we'll see if they land on a good draft pick as well. I'm going to throw Chase Jackson-Davis. Do I want to throw him in starter? Or do I want to throw him in rotational guy? Just because Jackson-Davis, like, what is his ceiling as a player in this league? But I think it's a good enough big. I'll throw him in starter / role player, like he's shown the flashes so far. Like, Chris Livingston hasn't shown much in his career, and he was like a late 2nd round pick. They did get, like, I think a 4-year deal. But yeah, he just hasn't played a lot, so I'm going to be consistent there. Next up, we could talk about Deontay Johnson. Honestly, with everything that went on in his career at Florida, but it's going to be tough for him kind of just to, I think, have a career in this league. Like, getting drafted by OKC, it's tough to break through in that development system. We can talk about Isaiah Wong, who has shown some flashes for the Hornets. Like, I've seen some games where I'm like, oh, there's Isaiah Wong, former Hurricane, like, showing out on my screen doing something, but I'm going to throw him in that doesn't look good. Jalen Slauson as well, just hasn't had the opportunity really over there in Sacramento. It's tough because he's 25. Like, I think Jalen Pickett could be something, but I'm going to throw him in doesn't look good. I don't know, though. I kind of like Jalen Pickett's game, the former Nittany Lion. I'm going to throw him in a rotational guy. Seth Lundy, I'm going to throw in doesn't look good. Jalen Clark, I like his defense, or at least I did in college. But I'm going to throw him in doesn't look good. Like I said, I'm just going to be consistent with those guys going forward. Or just, like, I think James Najee was always intriguing coming out of Barcelona, but I would say he doesn't look good. Mohamed Gay doesn't look good. Mojave King probably doesn't look good. I honestly didn't know much about him, like, pre-draft. I mean, I don't think King has done much, right? No, he hasn't even played. Okay, yeah. I was like, I don't think I've seen him ever on my screener. Tariq Brebrovich, I honestly forgot about this dude, so he's just going to go in that tier as well. But Jordan Miller, I think could be a real rotational guy. He was obviously a standout from the summer league, but yeah, I loved Miller's game there, and I think he can actually be something and shown something. It's tough for him in the Clippers. Like, he's had his inefficient shooting games this year, which is going to get him pulled out of the rotation. But if I'm going to throw Phillips and, like, Wilson and Pickett in there, I want to throw Jordan Miller in there. So, funny enough, Scoot Henderson, the guy I want to talk about probably the most, not featured here. So, let's add him to the list. And Scoot, I think, like, rotational guy was, like, maybe before the stretch. if we're looking at a ceiling, I still think Scoot can be an all-star. I do. I am incredibly high on Scoot. I'm always going to give him the benefit of the doubt, at least on this, I don't know, the first two. I may bump that down, but it's not been great for him with Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups has been way too consistent with his rotations, with his kind of lineups in general, and Scoot has started, let's see how many games, the third overall pick of the draft has started in his career, 39 out of 68, and that's fine, but how does his minutes go down this year? The Portland Trailblazers should not care about winning this year. They should not. And I know Scoot has had his bad defensive games and his bad offensive games. But this isn't 2K. The Blazers don't have like 890 overalls and Scoot is just barely playing because you have all these assets. No, this is supposed to be your prize asset from the 23 draft who was supposed to be the second best player in this class. And he had those talks going into the year and he's been a lot better of a shooter as of late. Like there's been a good 7-game stretch for Scoot that I praise for real. I really do. But over Scoot's last 7 games, there's been some good. I mean, there's only 2 wins in there, 2-5 in his last 7 games. But like I said, the Blazers should not care about their numbers or about their wins. 19 points, 6.5 assists, over a steal, 51% from the field, encouraging. 46% from 3 on 6 attempts tonight, super encouraging. 79% from the free throw line on 6 attempts. So getting to the line, he just looks better out there. Maybe it's the goggles. Maybe Scoot should just never have worn the goggles, and he's been so much better out there. Like, obviously, the Miami game was disappointing. But, man, I'm still high on Scoot. I hope this stretch is for real. I believe it is. I don't think he's going to average 20 and 10. I think that's super unrealistic, like, right now. But, like I said, I'm very excited about Scoot, Sharpe, Kamara, Avdia playing in as the 1-5 next year. And I think, like, there's a talks. Like, Scoot maybe could make an All-NBA team one day, but I think Scoot, I don't know if I should have Lively an all-star, like, because I think Dick might have shown more than Lively in a way. Maybe I think Dick can make an all-star game in his career. Maybe I feel a little bit more comfortable about that. So sorry if you're a Raptors fan and you got really mad in the beginning of this, just for me to switch up at the end. So that's what I'm going to rock with here. We're going to go Wemby, that I think can get an MVP, Miller, and Amen Thompson, that can get at least one All-NBA in their career. Bilal, Scoot, Lively, and Dick, kind of optimistic there, but at least can get one all-star game. Maybe that's a little high. You can let me know. Keontae George, Jarris Walker, Bryce Sensabaugh, Julian Strother, Asar Thompson, Jordan Hawkins, Cam Whitmore, Gigi Jackson, Tamani Kamara, and Trace Jackson Davis, all in starter and role player. I'll name out the rotational guys as well. You got Taylor Hendricks, Pods, Clowney, Sasser, Shepard, Nick Smith Jr., Andre Jackson, Leonard Miller, Julian Phillips, Jalen Wilson, Jalen Pickett, and Jordan Miller. All those guys that I think could be a rotational player or piece on a good team one day. A lot of guys it doesn't look good. I would say some of these guys, more so Buffkin, Chris Murray, and Jalen Hood-Schifino, the guys that have, and like Jett Howard, that like were supposed to be something and really didn't. A lot of these guys we really haven't seen a lot of, like Dariq Whitehead, maybe it's not encouraging, or like what we've seen from just some of these guys. We haven't seen a lot of like playing time so far, but I would say like out of the doesn't look good, Hood-Schifino, Buffkin, Howard, and Murray, and Whitehead probably scare me the most there. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. I hope you enjoyed me talking about this draft class for the last 40 or so minutes. If you did, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a rating and review over there, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.